Good evening, everybody. I'm Dr. John Paul James, and you're watching Living Life with Dr. John Paul James. We've got some tremendous guests here today, and of course, our co-anchors are here. Tamara is here, and Jeff is here. But we have two special people here today. Shantice is also here on the set, and then we have this young man, who you've probably seen all over the city musically and probably somewhere on the national scene if you've seen him on YouTube and Facebook and all the other places. And if you haven't seen him, you're going to see him real soon. This is going to be a very, very powerful session because we're going to deal with something that's really real. Two things. I think that people deal mostly with rejection and abandonment, and it interferes not only with their personal life, but with their relationships everywhere, in romantically, as parents, sometimes as sons and daughters, as friends. We find it, and terribly, also as workers or co-workers with people. People still deal with abandonment and rejection. We're going to deal with something that's called rejection sensitive dysphoria. Now, I want to explain it to you because nobody enjoys rejection. But when it results of overwhelming and persistent emotional pain, you might be living with rejection sensitive dysphoria. Now, rejection can sometimes make you feel unwelcome, unappreciated, or undesired, and all natural emotions, reactions to someone pushing you away. Now, with rejection sensitive dysphoria, though these feelings can be magnified, resulting in intense emotional and physical distress, but this doesn't have to be permanent. And there are a few ways to manage the symptoms and make you feel better. The word dysphoria simply means dissatisfaction or uneasiness. Now, which is the opposite of euphoria. Euphoria, you feel good, you're hyped. Dysphoria, you're going in the opposite direction. Now, it's a condition that where a person's extremely sensitive to rejection, both real, and here's really what I want to get to you, and perceived. Because sometimes you really aren't rejected, but you feel like you are. So you may react to someone saying no to you or excluding you from a given situation or conversation, for example. But you could also interpret general comments or behaviors as rejection, even when they're not meant to be that way. Now, this is a part of living with this illness, and sometimes, even though after you have filtered things out, making them feel appear to be dimmer or darker than they really are, your filtering system seems to be a little tainted. So you don't really have a balance sometimes. You feel unbalanced most of the time. And if you're unbalanced, you're always trying to protect yourself. So you got to imagine walking around feeling like you got to protect yourself all the time. In other words, you're on high alert. You're always on alert. And this can result in extremely low self-esteem, low mood, and cause people to externalize their feelings as anger, withdrawal, low mood, or rage. The person may also feel rejection from comments and interactions that most people will consider to be mild or slight. You see people say, it's not that serious. To a person that's dealing with rejection and abandonment, it is serious. What you take slight or mild isn't. Also, there may be some other factors in there like ADHD. Now, ADHD, if a person has ADHD, they may also feel like it could be mirrored as a mood disorder. So sometimes people say, well, you may be bipolar. They're not bipolar. They're ADHD. But then it mirrors that. Those are the kind of things that happens. Now, anyone can experience this kind of feeling and be considered a type of emotional dysregulation, what we call ED. Now, while you may not recognize as a formal symptom of ADHD, ED is a fundamental part of diagnosing the disorder throughout Europe, but not necessarily in America. Emotional dysregulation refers to a challenge one experiences when trying to manage mood and emotions. A lot of times when people are not saying much. They're really trying to manage and regulate their mood. They really don't know how to feel. They don't know what to feel. They don't know how to feel. And sometimes I think that these feelings come from out of nowhere. It could be a trigger from anything that is said. Let's get to some symptoms real quick. It could be low tolerance to frustration, a short temper, mood fluctuations, emotional overwhelm. It could be outbursts, and these symptoms are associated with, remember what I'm telling you, when you're feeling rejected, when you're feeling sensitive, when we talk about having that kind of a feeling, you go through these kinds of things. All right, so you can feel like a surge of hurt and despair, possibly accompanied by physical discomfort. Sometimes people just feel like they need to get out. They want to leave. Um, you may be feeling like thin-skinned, or being people may title you as a drama king or a drama queen. You experience genuine, intense pain as a result of feeling rejected. Now, it's not in the DSM. We don't normally diagnose people that way. However, we understand that people are really having some authentic feelings. And so, persistent emotional or physical distress when facing real or perceived rejection, criticism, even though people understand that there's positive criticism as well as negative criticism, but when you feel rejected or abandoned, any type of criticism can really feel like an attack. And a lot of times people are walking around feeling attacked. Now, most of us are church babies or have been in church, and a lot of times when people are saying things in church, you can feel like you're in a spiritual warfare. And in actuality, you're not. But remember, because of what you've gone through, you constantly feel like you're being attacked. Feeling of anxiety when you feel disliked or not accepted by others, even if you don't know them. A need for approval and validation, and frustration when you don't receive it. A sense of hopelessness, particularly when perceiving rejection by someone. Fear of failure and social rejection. A sense that you're not liked by others in general. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back and talk about some of the coping skills that we can do. There is thought, what we call rumination. You ruminate, your thoughts are going in your head over and over and over again. There are relationship challenges. You are always defensive. But I want to add something to it. I also think that when you feel rejected like that or abandoned like that, you tolerate crap off of people. You take, because you so desire to feel loved and feel accepted, that sometimes you will take, I'm just gonna call it crap. You will take what you shouldn't take because you're trying to fit in. So you will try to regulate your mood when we talk about rejection, sensitive dysphoria. You would do those kind of things. The cause is not really yet understood, but there's a history probably of trauma somewhere in there. You've probably been traumatized somewhere in there. Now, I'm not going to say that you need to necessarily go on medication, but there's going to be depression and anxiety, of course, is going to be in there. And so there's a bunch of herbal products along with psychotropic medications that can be there. But when you're dealing with trauma, one of the greatest ways to do it is to be able to talk about it. And if you notice, when you try to tell people about what you've been through, a person who has a lot of trauma or a person that feels rejected always wants to tell you their story. They will give you a testimony in a moment. They're always trying to explain. The way you deal with trauma, though, is by talking about it. All right, so let's go from this side first. Let's deal with Tamara. We're going on the younger side first. Let's deal with Tamara. Tamara, how do you feel about what we just talked about in terms of rejection, feeling abandoned? You can feel abandoned from someone dying. You can feel abandoned by people leaving you. You can feel abandoned by feeling like you've been dropped off. People who should protect you are not protecting you. Mom and dad are always somewhere else as opposed to being with you. There are a lot of ways you can feel abandoned. How do you feel about that, and how do you how would you explain it in your own natural life?
I've felt abandoned for quite some time in my early childhood years because of things that I've experienced. So I understand as you were talking, I understand why I feel a certain way when it comes to not feeling like I'm accepted or I'm always rejected. I just feel like sometimes I feel like I just don't fit in. Like, and as you were talking, I realized that yeah, I felt abandoned through my younger years, and so as growing up, I realized like I don't mind going anywhere by myself because I'm used to being by myself. So um, I got so much to say. I'm not sure what to say, but yeah, I understand what you're saying now, and I realize that yes, I do feel rejected. Yes, you made a statement. Um, those of us that have low self-esteem, I realize I do deal with stuff that I shouldn't deal with.
What about shame? Do you feel shame?
Because I feel abandoned, or
You feel, yeah, you feel like something's wrong with you. You may feel shame. You may even feel some, what we call negative guilt. It's your problem. You're the problem.
hmm,
It's your fault.
I
And you may feel shame. You may be like me. I can have an outgoing personality, but really I'm not. But it seems as if I would be. I may look like it, I would be, but I'm really not. So I can be an introvert who has an ability to be an extrovert. Is that you?
I would say yes.
Okay. Do you feel like there's some shame when you walk into the room? Why are people looking at you? Do you feel like, do people know my story? Do people, do they believe things that they heard about me?
I wouldn't say shame, but yes, I do. When I walk into a room, yeah, because I know that I carry weight, not just mentally but physically. So yeah, I'm wanting people looking, or yeah.
So you feel shame because of your weight?
Kinda just
I mean, you look good. You look good. I mean, some people love women with weight. Every man doesn't want a slimmer woman. Some men love. Yeah, you get it.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's just.
That's fine. Let's go to Marty. Marty, tell us about you. You're 30.
31.
31.
I turned 32.
Okay, talk to us.
As far as the topic goes, for me, rejection. I have been through so much that has caused me to be an introvert and extrovert at the same time. My earlier years, more so extrovert. My now years, I'm an introvert. But because of the things that I have to do, I know I'm just old. I've been taught, one of the things I can recall back early in church, we had a thing called Little Soldiers for Christ. And I remember us dressing up and, we all had the army fatigue stuff and things of that nature. And I remember being called out to supposed to remember a scripture, and I forgot it. And something was said from someone who was supposed to be protecting me at the same time, and I felt that. And for the rest of my life, I carried that, but it taught me something so much. So anytime I'm put on the spot, I'm never afraid, because I learned through that experience that taught me so much that I never feel rejected again.
Okay, so how about trauma? Childhood trauma.
Childhood trauma.
Have you been abandoned when you were young? Did you feel abandoned?
I never felt abandoned being young. Even though I come from a single family home, I believe that I was so much guarded and loved that I couldn't even tell. And it wasn't until later in my latter years that my mother never spoke bad about my father. Never, my father and it was crazy because I just spoke to him today before I got here, but I really didn't have to. I really don't even remember feeling like, where is my dad? I don't ever remember really feeling those moments, or I don't know. I guess it's just how she enforced her love, but the trauma that I felt growing into a man, and then wanting, once I'm understanding certain things, we've had a bond, but it wasn't the type of relationship that I would desire to have. And so I guess that brought some types of trauma as it pertains to how I am just how I receive another man, or how my trust level. I guess it has something to do with that a little bit, because lip service don't mean nothing to me. I've had a father that told me he'd be on the way and didn't show up, but I'm an easy person to. My saying used to be let it sing, so I would just put it in my mind and just let it sing.
How about rejection in relationships? Have you felt rejected by a woman?
Yeah.
What happened?
I have. So during a point in time, one of the hardest times in my life, one that I had spent so much of my years with, and as I went to jail and prison for years, that I felt definitely rejected and abandoned in the hardest part of my life. When again that lip service, I'll be there with you, I'll be there for you, I got you, and then when it's time for the rubber to meet the road, it wasn't that, and so yeah, I felt dropped.
Felt dropped. A lot of young people feel dropped.
Yeah, and I have a conversation with a lot of young people as far as how they feel being dropped. You got some households where, get out my face, get out my room, go outside, you annoying me, and a lot of the times that parents don't realize in the moments which you are breeding.
So that's how, would you say that that's how the streets end up raising our children, because they've been told to get out of the room, or you're irritating me?
Mind your business, stay out of grown folks' business, a lot of that things, and you end up finding out that it definitely runs them to other devices.
So Marty, you're a young minister as well. What would you do about rescuing young people at this point, or young adults? Well, you know they feel rejected, you know they feel abandoned, you know they've been dropped, you know through relationships, not just with their parents or their relatives, just people.
I feel like as a people, a lot of young people already when they walk in the room, sometimes already feel like they're the smallest thing in the room. Not the attention isn't on them in a way. I think for me, what I would do and what I've been doing, if you just have some conversation and really understand the whys of why you act the way you act, why you do what you do. I knew a young man who, I asked him, why you so hard in the streets? Was because my mother was a crackhead and I had to raise my brothers and sisters, so I had to go rob and steal and do that just so I could feed them, because my mother was nowhere in the household. So then we wonder why the dynamic be the way it is, but there are layers to that thing that people don't actually talk and see through. You just see this knucklehead, but this knucklehead is based off survival.
Okay, I want to get to them in a minute, but I want to ask you another question about the kickback that I see young people give in terms of society. I take sometimes the way that people dress is I don't care. It's almost as if it's just me.
I had a conversation in school about that yesterday.
So they wear their clothes hanging off and they don't care.
We had it was because I was studying for business, so we were talking about how that representation. And so I was being biased because I like to wear everything: suits, ties, regular clothes. It don't make no difference. But it was about literally, okay, if you are representing a business or whatever the case may be. But so I was biased. I said, so if I am the head of something and I'm, I could talk it, I could, make it work and all that, but you're judging me based upon how I look. I said, and we do that a lot of times, but I see with the young folks, a lot of them don't care. a lot of them feel like what they got to do with who I am.
All right. So what, again, the rejection of society, feeling like society rejects them, so they reject society.
Exactly.
Is that what it is?
I mean, it basically is, you don't like me, I ain't gotta like you.
So Jeff, you know, as an older man, do you see it that way? That they feel like society has rejected them, so then they reject society? You have a
34-year-old son. I
Yeah.
think it's about perception, because I had this same talk with my son when he would have his pants hanging down.
What about the language? Like my parents would tell me, leave that outside, don't bring that in here, or we don't talk like that. So I got that kind of talk. We don't talk like that.
I think at his age, and now, that you gotta be able to speak both languages, to be able to fit in both worlds.
I agree.
Okay, so is it that because black people don't really have a culture, that young people develop their own type of culture? What is it?
I believe in anything, as your generation, generations before, they saw something that impacted them, that created a culture within inside themselves that they adapt to. So, as we know, social media is crazy. So, I like our early, like my generation, we look at now these 2000 babies coming up that, you know, it is crazy that the fact that a lot of things that they say and do and how they respond is like, you know, really it's a nobody can tell me nothing type of thing. And but it's like I said, perception of so much stuff. They internalize what they see.
Okay, hip hop.
And
You're a hip hop artist per se, right?
Yeah.
All right, so that's art.
It's
And an expression.
It's an expression, but it has led people down a faulty path.
All right, when you mean a fault.
I say that because you have rappers that are known rappers that talk about popping pills, bottles, and popping this one and that one, but would tell their children or don't allow their children to listen to their music, only because of the fact that this is their job. So you got you got. It's in a way it's a faking it to make it.
So again, as an artist, how are you? What do you think about rescuing them? Because I think that if they're doing that, they're putting themselves in a position of rejection.
Yeah, but I know one thing this generation stands on. You got to show me. You can talk.
What does that look like? What does that mean?
So if you talking about that, I could be put in a better situation. I could be this. I could be that. I can do that.
Show me.
Okay, show me.
That's it.
So
not just that. I ain't got time to waste either.
Okay.
I don't need
So
to step
so I
outside.
said to you, you have a great personality. I said to you, you know, you have the power to create. Like everybody's not going to be handed a job or given a job, and even if you go to 15 interviews, you may never get the job. So we got to be extremely creative. This is a year of 2023 is a year of innovation, creating it. Somebody opening the door and showing you how to create your wealth, right? I think at this point, young people are already set to create their own money anyway. You want to.
Yeah.
All right. So, and what we want to do is turn that around. So we talk about rejection. In order sometimes to turn things around, we have to see things differently.
Yeah.
In order to turn things around. So it's what you see, as opposed to what you feel, right? About yourself. What do you see? And I think sometimes it takes somebody else to look at you to help you
Yeah,
see
definitely.
who you really are. So taking time to talk about that, stopping the negative self-talk
Yeah, that's big.
that goes on in your head.
That's big.
All right, so that kind of helps you move away from the feeling of shame and guilt and rejection and all those kind of things. All right, let me go to Shanti's for a moment. You are a woman of business, a woman of God, a mother. Talk to me a little bit about you personally with rejection, abandonment.
Personally, yes, I have experienced it from as far back as I can remember growing up in the household. I had both my parents that worked, and I often felt like I was just a child existing in the household. You know how for the basic things like getting help with your homework, being taken to events at school, having extracurricular activities and your parents engage and participate, paying attention to you. Just to say something, positive.
Do you feel, as a woman, did you feel like that in relationships as well? Did you feel a sense of rejection? He didn't talk, he didn't pay attention, he wasn't sensitive. Did you feel
Absolutely,
rejection? Did you feel your
Absolutely.
femininity wasn't appreciated?
absolutely.
What did you do?
I worked really hard on trying to be whatever I needed to be to get the acceptance. I compromised the fact that who I am is okay, because I didn't think that who I was okay.
So did you ever just become mean? Did you ever just become, did you find yourself rejecting them as hard as you possibly could because you felt rejected?
Nope.
Did you feel yourself isolating? Did you shut down?
I think I shut down, and I was dealing with guilt and shame too, low
But what was the
self-esteem.
guilt you were dealing with? Why did you feel guilty?
Guilt might not have been a better word, more than the low self-esteem.
Well, negative guilt can come in because you feel like, why, I'm ashamed that I'm in this situation.
Or that it was something I did. So because of something I did, I got the response that I got, and I felt guilty about that.
Okay,
I did it the wrong way, or if something bad happened to me, it's my fault,
okay.
kind of thing.
I think you're saying that it made you doubt yourself.
Yeah, I did doubt myself quite a bit, to the point where I wouldn't even speak up, so it was
Yeah.
more of a shutdown.
Did you constantly feel attractive, or did it make you feel unattractive?
Back then, no matter how much a man might have been attracted to me, my response was more of a shame that I looked that way, or that I was attractive, because I really didn't feel that way.
So I think sometimes people, though we should feel good about what we look like and how we are, because of background, the way you're reared, it made you feel like you were nasty. Made you feel like, you were promiscuous, when actually you're just being your charismatic self, right? Your true self. Everybody has a personality, and people can be attracted to your ankles. They can look at your mouth, your eyes, you can cover it all up. But there are things that I think that people walked around again in a sense of false guilt and false shame.
Shame.
Okay, let me go to Jeff. Jeff, as a man, did you feel rejected as a child, or did you feel rejected in romantic
I
relationships?
feel rejected, but let me say one other thing. Sometimes I feel, sometimes I wonder what other people see in me, how they view me. Because the way I feel about myself and the way I'm, getting feedback, I'm like, wow, you really feel that way? You think this? And sometimes you just don't see yourself that way. And as far as rejection, yes. For me, it's made me doubt myself sometimes.
You should doubt yourself sometimes.
Yeah.
All right, so I went to white schools, Catholic University. I didn't get to go to the black colleges. Fighting for me, again, my voice was hard. Like he's young, he's got a big voice. I had a big voice, and he used to say, "Watch it. You're intimidating in class." And I'd be like, "Intimidating in class? What are you talking about? I'm talking." What do you mean intimidating in class? Like, what did I do? Or you come bouncing down the hallway, and it's just the way professors would do it. It was so bad until they had to take me out of the class. I ended up with being the only student in one class, one-on-one, with a male professor, again, a Caucasian, but the Caucasian woman, she could not, under any circumstance, deal with me being in her class.
Perception.
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 Based on
They
perception.
viewed you
And then there was some
different way.
Caucasian men who could not take me being in their class based on perception. Jobs. I remember bouncing into a job, and they said, "You look like you're gonna be a problem."
That right there alone.
Wow.
Did they do that to you too?
Oh, I'd have been there through all
My hair was cut. I looked like I was supposed to look. I acted like I was supposed to act, but I still was like, "You're gonna be a problem." And so you walk in and you have rejection. So rejection, again, based on what you look like, based on people's perception of you. in terms of how it is that they're going to treat you, and then we go through these psychological changes, and you try to adjust yourself. In that process, I also think you can lose yourself.
Yes.
So, what do you?
Live your authentic self. You really can. In trying to be a people pleaser, you really can, and miss the whole essence of being original, authentic. But it comes with, really dealing with your own self-love. I tell people all the time, don't tell me you love me and you don't love yourself yet. Okay?
Well, let's get to some romantic scenarios in terms of rejection and feeling rejected. What made, Tamara, you feel rejected in your romantic relationship?
Let's see.
Jeff is waiting for you. Go ahead.
What made me feel rejected in my romantic relationship? I'm playing back in my mind. I would feel rejected. I guess if I'm like making advances and
You mean making advances? What are you talking
What
about?
do you mean?
Talk.
I can't understand.
I would say sexual advances,
Okay.
Also, when they rejected your sexual advances.
Yeah, like I'm trying to.
Flirting.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah.
I have a question about that. How come women can reject men all the time, every day, and then they get rejected one time, and they like the whole world has come down on them?
Because we're not used to being
But he asked, have you ever been rejected in your romantic world, right?
Yeah, I have, and it was at that time, they didn't feel like it, and I was like,
He was like,
you know.
He wasn't that nice about it.
Again, it could come out as feeling undesired
And negative guilt.
and negative guilt. Go ahead.
Because again, like sometimes you can take on that, and just because of not right now, I don't feel like it, and you can tell what's wrong with me. But all the time you don't know what's going on in the person's head at the moment. I'm not sexually there in my mind to perform anything with you, let alone myself right now. So but I can see how that can turn.
Now, let's talk about that for a moment, because most of the time women always say, you got to get to my mind. Yeah. You can have my body.
Yes. Yes.
Hallelujah.
But the brother just said he feels like that. Men feel like, Jeff said, men feel like that too. So let's talk about that, because women, I don't think women understand that men feel like that too.
Right.
They always think we're cheating and we say we don't want that.
Yes.
This is the thing. I remember there was a time that happened, and nobody should feel comfortable in trying to have any sexual nature, and I ain't got no money. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to. My mind right now, I need to make some money. I got goals and stuff I gotta do. You talking about trying to have some sex right now, and I'm trying to go out and get some money.
Did y'all remember when I used to say when we were young? Romance with no finance is a nuisance.
Say it again.
Romance with no finance is a nuisance. I used to get up and ring that. I mean, I rung that to death.
Yes.
I could not, because I cannot be in a relationship where you're supposed to be to help me and you can't help me nothing, right? And except give me something. I mean, that's it,
Well, you can get anywhere. You can pit stop anywhere.
right? All right. So, ED or erectile dysfunction in men can come from when they feel depressed, when they feel angry, when they are dissatisfied with the house you didn't clean up. You're not really taking care of yourself. Your conversation sometimes can turn a man off, where he doesn't want you. Yeah. So your presentation, and sometimes it could just be stuff he's internalizing,
Exactly.
dealing with, that has nothing to do with
Nothing
you.
to do with that.
So, which brings to the point of, you got to know your triggers.
Yes.
If you're going to move beyond feeling rejection and all those things, you got to know your triggers. Criticism, neglect, not enough appreciation, wavering commitment. Now, here's the thing. You are not always going to feel love, but you can understand commitment. What moves you through is commitment and not necessarily feelings of love.
But that, and even with that, because if you're only looking at love to be a feeling, then you ain't gonna never feel it. I mean, you ain't never gonna
Love
receive
isn't
it.
a feeling. Right?
Exactly.
Love is not a feeling.
Okay.
Love is an action.
You say love is action. What is love?
Love, for me, love is what love does.
Okay, so you say love is action, Jeff?
Hmm.
How would you define it?
Love is being appreciated for what you do for others, for what they do for you. Just feeling appreciated.
Okay. Tamara?
I would say love is a commitment of oneself, of emotions, of sacrifice, of
Okay. Love operates sacrificially. All right. Love can be defined in so many ways. Love could be defined as a feeling, could be defined as an action, but love can also be defined as simple acceptance. Love accepts you without change, right? So love can be acceptance, but on a bigger scale, love is unity of thought. Unity of thought. Love is instant, and love grows to many different areas, right? Love can grow from you being a friend to you being a lover, from all of that to you being an enemy.
Yeah.
Love does not change. The role that the person plays in your life changes. So people say, well, I fell out of love with them. No, you didn't. Your role changed. You no longer see them as a valued lover or a qualified partner romantically. You now see them in a very different light. Because what does the Bible say? Love your enemies. Pray for them that despitefully use you. So love is love. Love does not change. Right? Love your neighbors, you love yourself. So love does not change. The role the person plays in your life changes. And the action is based on the role the person plays in your life. You get from them the role that they play. You could be married to Tamara, and she gets what Shantice does not get, though you love her, right?
That's true.
But you get something that she does not get, which is more total. There are parts of him that he does not give her that he only gives you, but he still loves her. So that you're gonna see some likeness of the relationship, but there is a great difference. And a lot of times, women start rejecting men, or men start rejecting women, because they see another person receiving what they think they should only get.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
that's true.
Does that have to do with the unity of thought process?
Well, so friends, same view, same approach. I'm so glad you said that. Let's go to this. David and Jonathan in the scripture, the Bible says their love was greater than a woman. How can a man's love be greater than a woman's love? Because first of all, when you have a unity of thought, there is no difference between your voices. In other words, they were so tight until there was no difference when they spoke or moved. When two shall become one as it relates to a woman, that means that when you see me, you see me. When you see you, you see me, and vice versa. It's mirrored, which again, you cannot distinguish who's speaking because we'll speak one language.
Yeah.
Then the scripture says, let there be no divisions among you, speak and think the same thing. All right, how can two walk together except they agree? So then, Jesus says, I no longer call you servant, but I call you friend. Well, who has the mind of Christ? We do. That same mind, it's in Christ Jesus, be also in you. As looking at the word, or beholding him as looking in a mirror, will change from glory to glory or level to level. If you look in the mirror, then you see what? An image, right? You see a reflection. The three Hebrew boys in the furnace, the king goes to look. He says, one of them looks like the Son of God. He was never there. Because of their love for God, they looked like God. So you have to be in a relationship where your oneness is so tight you can't tell the difference in another. That's what a person becomes jealous of, your tightness.
And just to add to that, you know how people say the more you spend time with an individual,
The more you start looking like them. So what you're really jealous of is the unity that the person has. So you're jealous of how close they are because you are comparing yourself to them. Does that make sense? If you're married to Jeff and you see how close Jeff is to either one of them, in your mind, I want that. He should only be close to me.
Yes.
But you're not his best friend as a wife.
Well, we don't go to that.
Wow.
You can't be a man's best friend as a wife. You can be his most intimate friend, but you're not his best friend. And neither can you be his only friend.
Wow.
So is that the reason why we love people differently?
Based on the role that they, and based what you're getting,
We receive
Yeah,
them from
like-
you're receiving from them.
Like sometimes I felt more love for somebody else because they made me feel that way. You know, they brought out more out of me.
You aligned, your thought life was more aligned. When your thought life is more aligned, like there's some people you can instantly connect with. You instantly click with. You can look at them and say, I like that. Or I feel drawn towards that. Like you be walking out and somebody want to know who you are.
Identify.
They can identify with either wanting to be like you for whatever reason it is. They see themselves going somewhere where you're going. So that's what makes sex good. Sex says, I want to keep you. When you have sex with someone and you invite them in, that's the dance. That's the coming together of two people. That's when you become one. And sex says, I want to keep you.
For how long?
That's the thing.
Yeah, there's not a period.
If you got a one night stand,
There's an if right there.
but some people can deal with one night stand, some people cannot.
Yes.
But the reason why they deal with a one night stand most of the time is because they are quick to give what they feel. Rejection, abandonment, right? And no real connection with anybody else. But when you connect with someone on that level, you're now saying, I want to keep you, and when you say I'm in love with you, you're saying I can see myself building life with you. So you can be in love with any gender.
Sometimes you don't want to say that after you've had sex.
You'll say it doing though.
Which means you probably
You'll
should
say
not
it doing
have
though.
had
You'll say it doing.
But so, yeah, that's
After
not
it's
what
all-
you intended to say though.
You know what? Let's say that. Now y'all stop. The truth is,
Truth is.
you do be. Say you love me. You love me. And they will say, yes, yes, yes.
I love you for the
That's
moment.
the
In that
lie.
instant.
Sometimes they be lying.
That's
when they
not
do
love.
that.
In
No, they
that
don't.
instant.
Don't
They
they?
be pretending.
They love you for the moment.
No, to them it is. You said it's a
I love
feeling,
what
it's a
you-
feeling and an action.
Yeah, I
Just
love
the
what you
action.
can
No,
give
I
me.
said it was an action.
I love what you can give me.
Well, that is a feeling
I
of
love how
love.
you make me
I
feel.
love the benefit of you.
Yeah, that's a feeling of love for them.
Yeah, for them. It's
I
tailor
No,
made.
no. Remember something.
Disagree.
They're in euphoria.
Yeah.
Jeff said, "The way you make me feel."
Feelings are so
That is an
unstable.
expression. That is their expression, and that is the only word that they can come up with
Right.
At the moment.
at the moment, because that's what it feels like at the
At the
moment.
moment.
Have y'all ever been in a relationship with somebody and all of a sudden you wake up maybe a year later, 2 weeks later, and like, what in the?
Yes.
What
had,
they need?
yes, I
What
had.
I gotta get out of there.
I must have been drunk.
It was at the moment. and-
I normally
Different place in
couldn't
your
go with
life.
nobody for a week. I'm like, after a week, like, I'm done with you.
Sometimes you can have good sex and then you can be rejected right after that.
Yes, you can't. Why? Because again, it's with that person internalized. You know, people want certain things, and I mean, it's like fast food sometimes. You know, people want what they want, when they want, how they want it, and if it no longer serves a purpose, then it is what it is.
But based on what Jeff said, that's not love. That is lust. You getting a
Absolutely.
feeling fulfilled, and then
Absolutely.
what? Everything that came out, that feeling came out.
Now,
with
Shantice,
it.
now you got to say this now. So, I'm a
Let her
shape
feel it.
man. Shapes do that.
No.
And if I love the shape,
I love the shape.
I love the shape.
Okay, that's fine.
But I can
it's
lust
still-
after it. I can lust after it, but I'm in
Keyword.
love with the shape. You can't take what I love about it away.
Now, it depends on how that shape is shaped, because I might want to keep that. I got, that might
Okay, so then if you might wanna keep that,
that
you need to wait
fatness
a
right there,
little
that
longer.
fatness in that area. That
To
might-
wait a little longer to engage in the sex, if you might wanna keep that.
Yeah, cause I wanna say, you say when you have sex, it makes you wanna keep them. But my mind says it doesn't make.
No,
you
that's what it
necessary.
says. Now, remember something, in the Bible days, there was no marriage license.
No, no.
When you kept the person, you were married.
Right.
The way that they knew that you were no
Sure.
longer being kept is because you had a letter. The woman had a letter saying, "I'm released."
Writ of divorce.
That's how that came about. There was no going to the courthouse, getting no. You were kept.
Throwing no bouquet.
And
You were kept.
marriage.
Can I say this? Now, some of us have been kept men, like some of you have been kept women.
And you have to leave.
Well, I've been a kept man. I loved it. I mean,
I've always
it is what it is. But the point is, the point is, if you see something, I guess in my mindset, I don't want you to play with this. I don't see myself as a toy.
Yes.
I see myself as a keeper. So you give yourself based on what you see.
Yes and no.
Go ahead.
Because I know I've had conversations with individuals who also sell their bodies, who are strong believers. I want what I want. I want your money. I'm money sexual. And I don't take nobody serious because they all say the same things and their actions don't follow. But I know I'm a catch. But I'm not gonna settle for what you throwing at me because I know it's just bull.
So
So I
remember,
can
remember what
just
you just
receive.
said. So instead of selling tennis shoes, you're selling your body. That's the commodity you have. That's all.
But deeper than that, because again, it's about what I'm receiving. When I have that conversation, is what they receive out of it, not just the.
It's also how you see yourself.
Well, how you, because again, a lot of stuff is also built from trauma and survival.
How you see yourself. This is the way that you have trained yourself to survive.
Train, exactly.
Right?
That's
Train
it.
yourself to
Train your
survive.
mind like, okay.
Now, there's a difference between being a kept person and the person selling themselves. There's a great difference.
There's a great difference.
There's a great difference in that. We're talking. Yeah, there's a great difference in that. It is. That's not simple. You give me some money. That's not that. It's like it's a lifestyle.
Yes.
All right.
They've made it a lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle of everything is given to you and met by you and only you, and you're not just giving them sex. You are providing for them safety. They feel safe in your presence.
Yep.
They feel desired in your presence. They feel fulfilled, and you may also give them what they need psychologically and emotionally to be great out there making the money.
Yeah. Vice versa though. Too.
Too, yeah.
Because a lot of times that's where a lot of people find their peace.
A lot of people do.
When
Now,
they can't find it at home.
We're not talking about what's socially right or according to society or according to scripture or according to those things.
Just-
We're not talking about right and wrong. We're talking about what it is what it is, and how
Yeah,
people
yeah.
see themselves.
Exactly.
Right? How people see themselves. Now let's fix it up real good. Some people marry for that lifestyle.
Yes.
Sure do.
It's the
Yeah,
same
they
thing.
do.
You did the same
It's the
thing.
same
You
thing.
just went to the courthouse and
You just ain't on
signed
the
a
street.
contract.
Yeah.
You just ain't on the street.
But you did the same thing. You married because out of fear of not surviving.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Let me say
They
that,
come with
'cause
the
I
same
know I can
package.
find nothing else.
There you go.
Well, I wanna ask a question or make a statement, whatever comes first.
Okay.
Concerning rejection.
Alright.
From what I experienced, walking around with rejection, based off of something that happened when I was little.
Mhm.
And, that caused me to feel unaccepted, undesired, unloved as a child growing up, and not having that healthy example of a father, a protector,
Mhm.
you know, or being paid attention to even by my mother. So, to me, that almost puts an aroma on me to draw that same type of man, even if I don't want it.
The same type of man as your father was?
The rejection from, oh, yes, the same type. I mean, that's my father. I came from my dad. So if that happened, then, because I can remember while you all were talking, having encounters with men who were interested, and they were decent men. But then I always ended up with the one that was gonna feed the rejection.
Because
So-
you never grew past the need for father. So you looked for him
Wow.
My-
in every person that you met. So over and over and over again, it was him. So when you change your thought life, this is why I kept bringing up the point of thought life. The only way to do that is when, all right, so neuroplasticity, our mind's able to grow, all right? Our brain is able to enlarge. When you have a different experience, your desire becomes different.
Mhm. Yes, and then
Right.
you draw a different.
And then you draw from a
Perfect.
different well.
Wow.
So in order, when you want to change a person's life, they have to have a different experience. So if you notice that my approach is always, let's experience something different, because what you've been doing isn't working. So we now need to do something different. To move from rejection, not only do you need to know your triggers, you got to change your reaction. So instead of withdrawal, you have to speak up.
Mhm.
Something
Yep.
different.
You got to do something different. And then realize also it's about the other guy and not you. You're rejecting me. It's not about me. It's really about something with you. You get it?
I know I'm good enough.
Right. You walk around saying you're not good enough. It's probably, it could be a fear that they see about you. It's about the other person. It's not about you. Now you will continue to feel hurt if you have expectations that are not mutual.
Yeah.
So I can stop being hurt when I stop expecting you to do or give or be what you're not being.
Okay.
The other thing is, realize that there are things that you can't control.
But that's supposed to be the normal part. That's supposed to be okay. Okay, I don't have no control over this, okay. But not, oh, it's me.
Well, I want you to want me, but you don't want me, I can't control that situation. So I got to give myself permission to leave you where you are. Thoughts on anything? We've covered a lot, but what are thoughts? What thoughts do you have? If there were young people, there were people middle-aged that were dealing with the same thing, what would you tell them as we close out? What would you say?
I would say this you gotta deal with those deeper parts of yourself that you don't really like to deal with, because it's a part of a making for you. And when we were talking about doing stuff differently, getting different results, if the same thing you do and say and move produces the same thing, yet on the inside you know, excuse me, you know that you desire change and you want it, then you have to go after it in a way that you know that's going to help you know change your outlook or inlook on anything. I know even the last thing you said about you know, just having to like a person and all that stuff like that, and then look at yourself and then, oh, why am I this, that, so why are they not receiving me in that regard? And you just gotta, what I tell people all the time in everything, and this is something I do, and that's why I tell people, step yourself out of your own shoes and look at yourself outside your own shoes. And look at everything else, and then try to make sense of it. Like basically putting everything on the table, the perhaps, the maybes, the all that, and just trying to find, you know, the logic around whatever the situation may be, and it maybe help you better to not only deal but also heal.
So, in other words, if Jeff was pressing up on Shantice and he kept texting her, calling her, wanting her, but then there was a Pam who was doing the same thing to you, but you were irritated
Right.
by what she was doing to you. You can, as he said, take yourself out of your shoes and put yourself in Shantice's shoes and say, the same way I feel about Pam on me is probably how Shantice feels about you.
I wouldn't think that.
But most of the time, we don't do that.
We don't do
We
that,
do not
and that's
do that.
and that's why I say we have. And again, when we say doing something different, I had to personally do something different because what my self-talk told me was that, oh, I can just say, oh well, whatever, keep it moving, and you know, develop this mindset where as though it's just so arrogant, and it's just so like, you know, oh, that's your loss, you know, or feeling like, but without understanding, you know, having levels of understanding. The why, I go back and forth and saying that the whys and the what's that people do what they do, it's all for a reason.
It just left a big question mark in my head.
But
I don't know how
I
you
think the
guys
biggest
feel.
thing that you should do is don't be afraid to seek counseling.
That you-
To start talking to someone, because a lot of times in our black community we try to help ourselves and we try to go talk to other people. We need to go talk to someone who is a neutral party, and most times it goes back to our childhood anyway. So we got to go back and figure out what caused the trauma and the triggers,
Yeah.
and then move forward, and then try to deal with it.
I absolutely agree.
I would like to add
We, go ahead.
just basically own or accept your truth. Own your truth, what's really going on. A lot of us, we know our truth, what we like, what we don't like, but because we're worried about what other people are going to say or how other people may feel, we won't own our truth, and then we won't be able to really heal and really, move forward and come out of those layers that we're in. Because we don't want to believe our truth, our own truth.
Well, I'm glad that we all came together today. I really am concerned with our young adults and our young people and how to help them, how to move them past the rejection, some for shame and guilt, and the feeling of abandonment, feeling of being dropped and let down and nobody's going to come and give me direction. I think what we need to do is really teach them how to move across the street, how to be their successful selves. And the only way to do that is, as you said, give them an answer, give them a direction, give them an answer, and then show them that if you do this, you can have this. I like to just not just say that you can, but give them an opportunity. So if I train you, then I'm gonna let you do it. And if the proceeds from that, go have a wonderful day. I mean, once you train a person, release them. Because now, whether I'm here or whether I'm not here, you now have something that you can take to Ohio, Cincinnati, Florida, and live.
And not just that. That same one you help is going to somebody else that looks up to them or connected to them, sees their level of growth or change, and they in turn will say, hey, let me tell you how. Let me show you. I did it. You can do it. Come on.
Most young people are afraid that if you come to get me, then you're going to try to hold on to me. I think the biggest thing in the world is to train a person and to let them free. You don't owe me anything, but you owe yourself everything. You don't have to be locked into a person. With relationships, you don't want to be in a relationship feeling guilty. You don't want to feel like I gotta be in here because I said something. No. Give yourself permission to be honest about that relationship. And if you're constantly feeling rejection in that relationship, then maybe you need to rethink that relationship. If you're in a relationship and you still feel feelings of abandonment, you may need to rethink where you are.
You may not be ready for it.
Or not just that relationship, but how many relationships do you need to be in to feel that way, to maybe consider it's not that person, it may be you.
There's a lot of people who feel unfulfilled. So I'm going to say it like Jeff said, you need to seek counseling because you can have multiple partners and you're having multiple partners because you still feel unfulfilled. It's time to go to counseling. Listen, I'm Dr. John Paul James, and thank you for joining Living Life with Dr. James. Thank you for all our guests who came on.
Yes.
We will see you next week.
Good job, y'all.
So what do you guys think? Do you think that we can